Absolutely, one of WRFL's finest shows, Generations of Jazz. Hope you'll tune into that. This is Trivial Thursdays on WRFL, and I'm happy to be with you here. I'm happy to be joined by Steve Keene. Hello, Steve.
Hey,
Nice to see you. Looks like I caught you mid painting.
yeah, I'm always working here.
I figure, or always working different places. I think that you're currently in a spot that maybe is not one that you're normally in working. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, a couple times a year I travel around and do performances. Mostly I'm in my studio, but it's kind of like I'm still at home because I'd be doing this, you know, every day anyway.
Right. It's I wanted to ask you, somewhat facetiously, since we don't know each other that well, but you've done over 300,000 paintings. Is the number that keeps getting kicked around. A lot of them are of like sort of connected to indie rock bands and that sort of thing. And I was just wondering, are you not just doing this so you can get into shows for free, Steve?
Um, yes, because I love music. I love music, but I grew up in a time where these musicians 30 years ago were kind of the first kind of people I ever knew that could make up a dream in their basement and then travel around the world with that dream. I loved the magic of that their art was about them traveling and creating events in other cities, in other states, in other countries.
It reminds me of Michael Azerrad's book, This Band Could Be Your Life. I don't know if you ever read that, but
I have that book. I have that book.
yeah, and I love the way he chronicles exactly what you were just describing, and some of the many hurdles that go along with it. Whether it's, I remember there's some remark, but I can't remember which band it was. That says something like, "If you ever stay at someone's house and the floor smells like cat pee, never go there again," something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But you kind of carved out your, so you've sort of carved out your own way to, as someone who went to a lot of clubs myself and has seen lots and lots of shows, you always kind of, I don't know, always had this sort of a little bit of kind of anxiety of like, what should I do until the band starts? You've sort of carved out a very interesting way to be involved with the music while doing your own thing too, I feel like.
Yeah, I am involved with the music, but it's almost like I like musicians more than music. I like I like the bravery they have that they have to do their thing. There's no party, painting here around a lot of people, but I like that I can do it because very few sort of like I have this fear of painting, so I try to overcome it by painting in front of thousands of people.
Wow. So you said you have a fear of painting?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of my work. I mean, I love doing it, and I want everything to be, look like a Vermeer. But a lot of times it comes out kind of mashed up looking. But people like it sometimes too.
Uh, Steve Keene is here, the painter, coming to us from Knoxville, where you're an art gallery for the Big Ears Festival.
Yeah, yeah, that's exciting. It's gonna kill me to stay up late, but I have to see Andre 3000 tonight.
Yeah, this is this festival which kicks off, which has is now live. I think running today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, and they don't
Mhm.
mess around on Sunday. Like a lot of like I always think of like work retreats or whatever, where like Sunday's sort of a joke, but not for Big Ears. Sunday goes until like 10 p.m. or something, or 11 p.m. on Sunday. I can't remember.
Yeah, and we have a flight out 5 o'clock in the morning on Monday, so a lot of excitement.
So let me see. I was curious. So when we talk about, music and your painting, how closely is your painting aligned to what you listen to? And do you listen to certain things when you paint? At this point, you probably listen to everything when you paint.
Yeah, you know, when my kids grew up, they took music lessons, so it's sort of like I kind of listen to just classical music now. But I mean, I love all this stuff, but I really love classical music now.
Have you done any paintings of Beethoven?
Oh yeah, I've done it all. I've done it all. They don't sell as fast, but you know, Kurt Weill sells quicker.
Now, so this is where we ought to talk some about your the ethos. I mean, because there's a punk rock quality to what you do, kind of. I feel like, and I feel like I read this a couple of places where, someone who myself who also kind of grew up going to clubs and finding my principal inspiration and principal social interaction and that kind of thing at that. That and it felt like we were doing something important. It wasn't like going to see, the Eagles at some giant stadium. We felt like we
Oh, I
were.
wish I could. I wish I could see the Eagles now. I was too good for the Eagles in '77. Now I'd love
And what makes you think you're so less too good for them now?
to. No, I like all that music. I like all that elevator music because it's just it's parts of your life. I worked for 20 years washing dishes in restaurants, and all that music was just everywhere all the time, and it just reminds you of a bygone era.
Now, you mentioned washing dishes, and I think I read somewhere that you wash dishes with David Berman, maybe from Silver Jews, or
Yeah, and Bob Nastanovich from Pavement. We were all on, my wife and I, and those guys were all on the radio station at UVA, WTJU, like 35 years ago. And that's where I met those guys. And
that's right.
it was amazing.
And you were a college radio DJ,
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is its own kind of community. I feel like I don't know if that was must have been your experience too, kind
Yeah.
of a community.
Those are my friends still. So it's a neat feeling.
Steve Keene is here, the painter, who is at the Big Ears Festival currently, but normally holds. You normally are based in Brooklyn, I believe.
Yeah, we live in Brooklyn.
Yeah, and I've seen pictures of your painting cage. I found that to be pretty interesting. A lot of things have cages around them in New York, but usually it's to keep anyone from like getting to it. What's your cage for?
Well, it is. It is. We built the big when we first moved in to the building that we bought years ago. It was basically my studio, and we had a microwave and a sink in the corner, and we slept in sleeping bags. And then we had kids, and little by little, it got kind of gobbled up into a house. And so I had to make my area fenced off so nobody could get in the paint and the mess of it.
This is to keep family members out, is what this is.
Yeah, and pets, things like that.
And pets, right. Did you ever have any strange catastrophes involving pets and paint? I feel like you've got a whole lot of paint around.
Yeah, you get footprints all the time from the dogs. All the time.
I was going to ask you, like, where do you get your paint, and what kind of bulk discount do you get? I mean, when you've done as many paintings as you have, it takes a lot. Paint is not cheap.
No, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. My prices are a little higher than they used to be. I try to sell everything for as cheap as possible because I just love the idea of, I paint it and then I have a website and everything I make is sold like kind of ahead of time. So I never really get to see my art. I never really get to have very much of it at home. I just make it and sell it through my website the next day. And that, is very much like a factory, or like, I think of it almost like it's a farm. I grow these paintings one day and then they get taken to the market next week.
That's Steve Keene is here, the painter. I see behind you, for those who are watching the show on Facebook Live, you can see some of Steve's work. I'm going to show some of it here in a second and talk about it some. Right behind you, I see Question, Are We Not Men? We Are Devo, the album cover rendered by your hand. I see at least 6 of them. I think I believe there's one behind your shoulder. And one of the, 9. Now we're up to 9. So there's so many interesting aspects of this. Whether it's the pricing, you're sort of, again, famous for sort of, not getting tangled up in kind of the art world hustle and selling paintings like these for $10, $20. I don't less. I don't know. I feel uncomfortable even saying less than that. But that's not
Yeah.
what it's about. Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm able to make a living. I mean, you can't really sell a dessert for more than $20. So why should my painting be more than that?
Um, you must see some real joy, and I expect this weekend you'll see some real joy at Big Ears as people's eyes kind of land on something. There's something about, and this has been my experience too. I saw a painting that you did of Slint's Spiderland album, the legendary Louisville kind of math rock band, and sometimes you see these things like it's not the original thing, but it's a painting of it, and one person I personally recognize it, and then it's like immediately there's this connection. It's like, oh my god, there's a painting of Spiderland, um, and that just seems
Yeah,
so cool.
my albums, you know, me painting albums, they're kind of popular, and I haven't quite figured out why. Because I, in some ways, I hope that they're not just extended merch, but that it's almost become sort of a like an idea that okay, there are albums in record stores, and this is a painting of an album in a record store. It has no purpose. It's just like it's signage, and so it becomes kind of like the dream. You know, if you see like some of my paintings just sitting around on the floor in somebody's apartment or in somebody's garage, and it's it's of the Beatles or Cheap Trick or something like that. It's just I paint real quick, so it's kind of blobby brushstrokes, but you make that connection, and it's I like that it's this quick thing. It's that things that people know already, and so they're looking at an interpretation of something they know already.
And maybe they feel, again, speaking from my own personal experience, but maybe I don't know. It's like music, especially if you're into sort of like underground music and that kind of thing, is something that is such a personal experience. And maybe seeing these renderings of a recognizable album by some underground band like Pavement or Silver Jews or somebody, and it's just like it's almost like this moment in my head where I go, "Oh my God, someone else gets this. There's another person who gets this, who
Yeah,
decided of
yeah.
all things to paint this."
I mean, music, rock music really has become, sort of, I mean, it is a religion kind of thing. And so some people react to the images of these, albums as, their holy relics.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's your yeah, it's like a exactly what you just said, a holy relic kind of. I've got one of them, which you can maybe see back here, one of your Everly brothers back here, and I'm just a and that was offered to me by Tony Miller, who I believe is a mutual friend, and I was so it wasn't just being offered one of your paintings; it was like being offered a painting of. I worship the Everly brothers, and they're a Kentucky phenomenon that the Beatles, when they were trying to describe the Beatles, the tabloid press or whatever called them, they're like, well, they're kind of like the English Everly brothers.
Yeah, I mean, there wouldn't be Beatles without the Everly Brothers. There wouldn't be Beatles because they wanted to copy the Everly Brothers in the first year or so, and that was their stepping stone. You have to find a hero, and you have to try to mimic your hero, and that's how you learn.
Who are some? I mean, who fits that bill for you as a painter? Who are some of the people that you have tried to follow in that sense?
Oh, the same people everybody likes. The same people everybody likes. And then you kind of go in and out of finding heroes and things like that.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the journey, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's this. Tony Miller gave me this. If you're watching on Facebook Live, you can see it. But it's not just the Everly Brothers. It's actually a rendition of one of their album covers. And I mean, and I've got more. You don't stop. Obviously, you don't stop at one of a given image, but also I mean, like, I just want to pull up another couple of Everly Brothers ones because I just went out and grabbed a few of my favorites. And let's see. So there's another one. I believe this is the Everly Brothers. Yeah. And then here's another one too. And so, do you ever go down one of these rabbit holes and you're just like, you know what? I want to paint more of that particular thing. Is that
Well,
how do you wind up doing?
I have boxes and boxes of images that I grab. I never paint like something in front of me. It's always from a photograph because it's just sort of me interpreting. It's fun, and I'm more comfortable to interpret something, to kind of repurpose an image. Because like my favorite, I guess if I have to say like an art hero, one of my favorite artists is Robert Rauschenberg. Just he uses these images, and he all use the same images over and over again in other compositions because he did a lot of screen printing, and so he just like printed more and more. And so one picture might end up kind of looking like another picture, but just kind of jumbled around. So I think of me copying stuff. You know, I'll go to like bookstores and I'll get, beat up, ripped up books, or I'll Google images, and I think of like recycling images.
That's Steve Keene, the painter, is talking to us from the Big Ears Festival, where you are doing, in addition to a gallery that's like chock full of your work, you're also painting in the same space or somewhere close. I don't know how it's working.
Yes, yeah, I make it work. It's a little tight fit, but yeah, I'm a professional doing this.
And I was wondering, like, the images, you said that you often work from a snapshot or something. And I also wonder, because I can tell that you're, a big fan of a variety of this sort of underground music. Are there ever things that you would just like kind of try to paint from memory, I suppose you might say?
Sometimes I do kind of paint from memory because I know the image so well, I almost don't look at it while I'm marking. Because I do certain images over and over again just because I like the structure of the image.
Have you are there any I was just thinking of I think you say it hypnosis, but the legendary design firm that did like I think some Peter Gabriel albums and some other things like that. Are there
NCC?
Do you have Yes, did you say XTC? Oh, I love you. I love you dearly for saying that. I'm a huge XTC fan. And have you done any XTC covers?
Oh, I've done them all. I mean, it's kind of crazy. This book that's out. It's a beautiful book. My friend
The
Dan,
Steve Keene book. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to hawk it because I get no money from it. But
you're not known for trying to hawk things, actually.
But it is. No, I lost my train of thought. Something about the book. Whatever. The book is here. The book is here.
The book is really cool. The Steve Keene book. I don't know how many pages it is. It's a tome. It's like a coffee table book, and you have it's available, and it was crowdsourced, which is a really interesting thing. So I think that my Everly Brothers, yours, mine, Tony's, is in there.
Oh yeah.
By way of my photo, like because
yeah, that's how they got them in there. And like this book started out. Now I remember what I was going to say. The book started out I had this show at Shepard Fairey's Art Gallery in LA, and Dan arranged that, who made the book. And I started doing these album images to put up on eBay. It was like a way of, making, if my website was slow, I'd put stuff up on eBay. And so it's kind of funny. Like the book is basically made up of stuff that I sold on eBay. So that's what's kind of fun about it to me.
I also like the idea of going as Dan did, going around to a variety of people through email or whatever, and soliciting photographs, high quality photographs. I'd like to mention for Dan there, raw files preferably of their paintings, and collecting them that way.
Yeah, I mean, I I flatter myself by thinking that this is kind of what I do is like a group project. It's like the thousands of people that own my art. They'll go to somebody else's house. I'm told all the time. They'll go to somebody else's house and they'll see, one of my paintings, and they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't know you knew who Steve Keene was," or those kind of connections. I have a friend in LA who was trying to get a film editing job from some guy, and he went over to the guy's house and he had the same Jonathan Richman painting that he had. So I hope he clinched the job because of
that. Steve Keene is here, the painter responsible for, it's always an estimate, right? Over 300,000 paintings.
Yeah, I've been saying that for about 7 or 8 years. So I don't know. I don't want to overestimate, but I think it's at least that. If I calculate how much wood I use.
Now you, when we talk about the iterations, like behind you, there's the Devo, a Devo record. Question: Are we not men? Answer: We are Devo. I think it's the record. There's 9 of them. I see 9, and if I understand correctly, it's not uncommon for you to paint all 9 of them at the same time, right? Or all however many at the same time.
Yeah, they're all done at the same time. Like red, 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 green, 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 purple, 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 with big fat brush strokes. And then when it gets closer to finishing, you use smaller and smaller brushes. And then it's just, then you use then I sign my name, and that's it.
Steve Keene is here. Do you, oh gosh, I had a question, and where did it go? I don't know where it went. I'm just happy to talk to you and happy to see some of these things that you're working on. What did you, when you thought about what you're going to bring to Big Ears, like literally bring, how do you, are you in a constant process of sort of emptying the coffers at your house and in your studio?
Well, there's really nothing at home. So I spent a week, I sent down about, maybe about 250 paintings, and they have something to do with all the performers. I wrote down everybody who's performing. I guess it's over 100 people. I wrote down on different paintings, and I just did like my normal paintings, and and I like there's pictures that are like, they're different kind of rock and jazz pictures. And the performers are different rock and jazz musicians. So I jumbled it all up. I like to try to confuse people. So I'll have like, one band, and then I'll write down who's a band that has nothing to do with the festival, like Willie Nelson. I'll have like a jazz musician on it. And everybody's they stop and they're like, I don't understand. And that's fun for me, that it takes like a second for like, why do you do that? Because I like the feeling, like I'm always trying to figure out a way to get people to think, why is he doing this? Because it's like, if they know why I'm doing this, it's like, ooh, I could get a better job or something. But if they don't know why I'm doing this, it's like so exciting to me. It's fun.
That's Steve Keene. Steve, I've got a few paintings here I might like throw up for our friends on Facebook. If you have anything to say about this, there's the Apples in Stereo Fun Trick Noisemaker, which I think is the artwork for the album, right?
Yeah.
It's fun. I mean, it's a good question for you because so many of your albums are recreations of album covers, but some of them are album covers, right?
Yeah, I've done album covers for those guys.
Now, what you were just describing struck me as something that might happen with this Bee Gees album cover, Children of the World.
Yeah, I didn't do anything with the Bee Gees. I just painted their album. But they're good guys. That Bee Gees documentary is great.
It is. It's so fantastic. I loved it too. How to Mend a Broken Heart, I believe is what it's called.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, so this Bee Gees one, I wonder if this is an example of like, you've got your sort of like indie rock people who are like, wait, why are you painting the Bee Gees?
Yeah,
it may be an age thing.
that's the one thing I can't stand about music is that people if they they have their things that they love, and those things that they love define them, and sometimes they hold on to that so rigidly that they can't see any humor about stepping outside your grid of coolness.
And maybe identifying with you, the painter, thing. Hey, Steve, I thought we were on the same page about this.
No, I'm anti coolness.
Let's see. Here's several David Bowie records. The Man Who Sold the World, Scary Monsters, Young Americans, and Ziggy Stardust.
Yep, more eBay things. No, and I think maybe those were at Shipper Ferry's gallery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, okay, we already did the Everleys. There's the Everleys. Here's my. Okay. Neutral Milk Hotel. This is an example. This was already a very idiosyncratic cover before you painted your iteration of it. A sort of clip art, a legendary clip art sort of situation.
Yeah, I made mine weirder looking. I love that cover, but whenever I do it, it's always odd looking.
It's always what?
Odd looking.
I wanted, so as someone, you are an art school graduate, and I'm curious, like in the creative world, I'm a writer more, but in the art world too, one of the things you hear from professors a lot is the are you familiar with the phrase "kill your darlings"?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you even have to do that. I mean, you just make so many of them. Make more of your darlings.
Yeah, I mean, kill your darling. One time I had an art show at an art school, and they wanted to kill me, and the teachers told the students that what I was doing was wrong. And then this one freelance writer wrote an article about the controversy of it, and it was they printed it in Time magazine like 26 years ago. That was pretty wild. All I'm doing is painting my pretty little pictures, and they thought, and I was doing it in front of the window of the art school in Philadelphia, in the window, and they thought that was very disrespectful to the whole idea of why you go to art school, and and it wasn't a right model for the students there. So that was fun.
It reminds me again of the kind of interesting connection between sort of indie rock and the work that you do, where you've got these sort of high priests saying that's apostasy, you can't do it that way, and in music, that's sort of where the underground or punk rock or whatever you want to call it came from, where people who said, I'm just going to do it however I want, I don't care what you think. And it seems like that you're sort of articulating a painted version of that in some ways.
Well, once again, I think of, when I started doing this, and people didn't have websites. People didn't have computers at home. I was doing exactly this 30 something years ago. And the only way you got information out about what you did was, you had a little fanzine, and you drop them off in the front of the coffee shop or at the record store or the bookstore. And that idea of a physical object transported information, and it's so foreign now. It's so unknown. People can't. I can't imagine what people think half my age. And that's that way of documenting your activities doesn't exist anymore.
That is Steve Keene, the painter responsible for over 300-ish thousand-ish paintings. Just, it's a good number. It appears in everything I've ever read about you, that number.
Yeah, it's like a gateway number for people.
Right.
to walk into my world.
Right. This is how you get the people who only pay attention to painters who have painted 300,000 or more paintings.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, I hope you have a great time at the Big Ears Festival. Live painting from 9 to 5 every day. Is that right?
Yeah. I'll be here.
Fantastic. I really appreciate your time, sir. Thank you for chatting.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me on your radio station.
And thanks so much for the, I don't know, for the, for the gift of your work, honestly. Especially as someone, and a lot of people that listen to WRFL, we hold these things so passionately that seeing it reflected back at us, these things that we feel like are maybe personal values, in music. It's so much fun to see it reflected back in your paintings.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
I will let you go, and because I know you've got a few paintings to paint, I think.
Yeah. Still working. Yep.
That's Steve Keene. And thanks for talking to us from the Big Ears Festival in Knoxville, kicking off today and running through Sunday. We're going to take a quick little break here and come back with